So again, I want to emphasize that, quality assurance is not a tool. There is available tools around. Like for example, Serene, they are actually doing product testing. So meaning that they will randomly pick product to do testing. And if your product meets a certain specified requirement, then they will provide you with the Serene certification. Serene is more into product testing. ISO is more into product documentation. Like how do you produce this product? How do you flow through your management? How does your management ensure that you plan, you do assurance, you do quality check, you do quality control, and they actually just have procedures to make sure that all the documentations are properly done. So there's a lot of things on documentation that you have to keep as evidences, and then they will come and do audit. And what does that mean? That only means that in order to produce that particular product, your company actually implement their quality management systems, meaning that they actually tell you there's ways, there's techniques to do it, and it's more on documentations. And so we cannot say that the product is good because you have good documentation, and that's something that we have to bear in mind. We cannot have that wrong assumptions. We cannot have that wrong impression that just because you have ISO, this particular product is actually considered as high quality product. It's just that when you buy Gucci, when you buy when you buy Nike, or you buy these really high end brands, you just because of their company has a management system does not mean that the product is actually good quality. At the end of the day, it has to be still looking into the final product itself, whether generally it will be fulfilling certain requirement. For example, if the bag is supposed to be looking this dimension, with this color, with this leather, so there's various checking, even to produce a bag, you need to do various checking, where does the leather come from? Is it cow leather? And where does cow come from? And then is it from Spain? And the craftsmen are they trained? Are they well trained enough to cut the fabric to do the coloring, to do the dyeing, and to do all the sewing? And what are the machines that you're using, or what are the handheld measurement that they're doing? What do you mean by handcrafted, for example? So all these components, you need to plan, you need to check at different stages. So quality assurance is pretty much about holding points. It's about putting things together and have hold points, like checkpoints, to make sure that if it doesn't go, if it doesn't go to the next stage, you shouldn't go to the next stage if it doesn't pass certain stage. So I think that is quality assurance, and to have a good assurance program, the quality assurance system should be tailor-made to the project. It should be meeting certain quantifiable objectives. It should be able to collect data, and then to actually be able to read those data, understand those data, report those data concerning the quality, acceptance quality level details, and then what are the quality standards. And you also need to have quality certifications from suppliers and subcontractors, for example. Yeah. And you also need to have ways to evaluate the designer's procedures. You need to know how to review non-conformance. It's like a whole planning to monitor and check processes has to be in place. So these processes has to be there, way to review non-conformance, way to review rectification, way to review designers' procedures, way to review suppliers. You see, and all this will put together. When you put all this together, it will become part and parcel of your quality product at the end of the day. Because you have all these procedures, we will be able to assure you that the product that comes out is or will be of certain or very close to certain level of excellence. Even if there is a tiny non-conformance, it will be just negligible sort of things. And and then slowly it will become a branding, it will become a logo, it will become part and parcel of your reputation in the company. You see, and this quality assurance system, like I said, the essential thing is to put what you need to review, what data you need to collect, what sort of tests that you need to do, all the steps and procedures that is required at different point, and we call them whole point or checkpoints, to see whether the work that comes up from that whole point or the resources that we use from that whole point is actually meeting certain requirements before you proceed to the next stage or the next procedures or the next steps in the project or in that particular activity. So it's like a whole new plan of planning the activities and planning to check and planning to monitor, planning to review. And how do you review? How do you keep the data? How do you analyze the data? How do you make sense out of all the data? That is very, very important. Okay, then we come to the last bit here on quality control. Quality control will flow from having the system, and then the work will be implemented. And then what you do is you need to know what is there to control. That's very important, and you need to know the baseline, for example. Okay, you definitely need to know the baseline. You need to know which part of the system that you need to control. And this is also again tied in with quality assurance. So QA and QC are always together. We hardly hear QP, QA, but we will hear QA, QC, you see. So because QA is like the planning to check, and whereby this control system is to check. So what do you do first? You monitor first. You actually establish, you monitor, you calibrate your measurement devices, you collect the data, and then we will look at the actual result versus the standards. You see, what is the variances? Is there any variances, and how big is the variances, and what is the problem if there is variances? Is it an acceptable variances? Is it within the conformance, or is it within the acceptance criteria? So then from there, we will split into two parts. One of them is to really document all these processes. So one of them will be to actually look at the variances. If there is a variance here, like I said, you need to go through, immediately detect. The way to immediately detect the variances is very important. So important, because that means you detect the problem right away. This one is already off. You cannot accept it. So there is a variance there. There is a plus minus there. So from there, usually that would be about measurement, about equipment, the variances. Then you have another component where you collect the data. It's about having collection of data enough to look into what are the causes. You have the ratios data in a way that it will look into the causes and see if you can find out the reason for these variances keep on happening. So I think monitoring is very important. Auditing is very important. So when you do monitoring, one part is to detect the variances, to do improvement immediately, and the other part is to do audit. And when you continuously do your auditing, you will realize that we can actually detect some very root causes kind of problem. And there are some tools to help us to detect those causes. And this is what we call QC tools. You see, QC tools, there's many. Some of it is to detect variances, some of it is to detect causes, and some of it is a combination. You can do both with it. Okay, so I think I will move on to the next recording to look into QC tools. Okay.